Week 1 predictions from football. Barbie here. We are going to talk to you, or I'm going to talk to you about what I think my predictions are for the week 1 for the game. So at the end of the day, let's get it started and talk to you about who I think is going to win the games for week 1.
Hold on, wait a minute. Y'all thought I was finished?
So for the first game for week 1, now I am on Pacific time, so I am talking about the 10 o'clock morning games, the 1 o'clock 20 or 1:25 games, and the 5:15 night game, or 5:20, 5:15. So for the Bengals versus the Browns, so Joe Burrow is said to be playing for week 1 on the game on Sunday, and they are the ones who picked up Orlando Brown Jr. from the Chiefs. They have the stud Jamar Chase, who last season had 9 touchdowns, and running back Joe Mixon had 9 touchdowns. And they also had T. Higgins, wide receiver, with 7 touchdowns. They did lose Perrine to the Broncos, though. Whereas the Browns have Nick Chubb, who had running back 13 touchdowns, Amari Cooper, wide receiver, 9 touchdowns, and Kareem Hunt, who is currently a free agent. They do still have Deshaun Watson, though, as a quarterback. So they gained tight end Jordan Akins, who used to be in the Texans just like Watson. So for this, I'm choosing the Bengals. So Barbie is choosing the Bengals. That is who we are choosing for week 1. Yeah, I just think that the Bengals have a better team. I think it's funny that now that the the Cleveland Browns have 2 people that used to be on the Texans. So that's pretty funny to me, but we'll see. That game is at 10 o'clock in the morning, Pacific time on September 10th. Next up, you have the Texans versus the Ravens. So the Texans had their star players. So for each team, I'm talking about the 3 main players who had the most amount of touchdowns last season. What happened to them, and are they with the team or not, and who is the current main people of the team? So the Texans star players in 2022, Jordan Akins lost to the Browns. So 5 touchdowns. They have Damian Pierce, who had 5 touchdowns, and Brandon Cooks, 3 touchdowns, who now went to the Cowboys. So Brandon Cooks, who was a rookie, he had 3 touchdowns last season, is now on the Dallas Cowboys. How interesting. They do have new rookie quarterback, CJ Stroud, who they were able to get in the beginning. Was that the second round pick they had to get him? So, yes. And then they also did get, defensive end Will Anderson Jr., who is a beast. So they also picked up, for the Texans, Devin Singletary, wide receiver, who was on the Buffalo Bills. He did really good for Buffalo. As for the Ravens, they had 2022 Kenyon Drake, who had 5 touchdowns, who signed to the Colts in early August, only for them to cut him. Then you also had Mark Andrews, who 5 touchdowns, still with the Ravens, has been battling an undisclosed injury. But head coach says he will start week 1. And then Devin Duvernay, 5 touchdowns. He is back after suffering a foot injury in December last season. So let's see if the Ravens are really going to be able to do well. They do have Lamar Jackson back after signing him to be the highest paid quarterback out of everybody, of course. Actually, I think Joe Burrow just got a deal, which might have beat out Lamar Jackson's deal for a while until he became the highest extent. He was highest paid quarterback. Then you do have newly signed Odell Beckham Jr., who's there, along with now rookie wide receiver Zay Flowers. So the Ravens do have a much better roster, I feel like, this season. So they do have definitely a better chance. If you watched any of my videos, you will see that I have them fighting for a wild card spot for the division. Their division is just very hard. The AFC is dominant. Then, so for the Texans and Ravens, Barbie is picking the Ravens. So Barbie picks the Ravens to win against the Texans. So as for the next game, we have the Bucs versus the Vikings, still a 10 o'clock in the morning game. For the 2022 season, the Bucs had star players like Mike Evans, who had 6 touchdowns, who is giving the Bucs till this Saturday to extend his contract, or he, as in today, this video is coming out, or he will be an unrestricted free agent for 2024. Leonard Fournette, who was definitely one of my favorite players, obviously besides Tom Brady, on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who had 6 touchdowns. He is now a free agent, so nobody has picked him up. And then you have Russell Gage, 5 touchdowns, who got hurt in the Jets-Bucks joint practice last week and will now miss a 2023 season with a knee injury. I don't understand how people are getting so hurt in training camp and so hurt at practice. Practice and training camp, you're getting hurt to the point that you're missing games. You would think that practice we're supposed to go a little lighter here, like catch the ball, but why are the people getting hurt? It just doesn't make any sense to me. So that's the Bucs. They do still have Chris Godwin, wide receiver, and running back Rachaad White. They are in a rebuilding phase, but I do expect them to get some wins. As for the Vikings, they have lost some of their star players. So obviously we know they lost Dalvin Cook to the Jets, and Adam Thielen, who went to the Panthers. They had Dalvin Cook, who had scored 10 touchdowns last season, and Justin Jefferson, who scored 9 touchdowns, and Adam Thielen, who scored 6 touchdowns. So they did add rookie Jordan Addison to their roster to go along with Justin Jefferson. We already know who's the star lead wide receiver. But last season, the Vikings won 11 of their 13 games. I really don't think that they're going to have the same success this year as they did last year. So Barbie is choosing the Bucs. I'm going to try to pick a little bit of a couple upsets here and there. I don't understand how I didn't see the Detroit Lions winning over the Chiefs as an upset coming. I'm pretty sure many fans, as I've said in my yesterday's video, are very shocked over the fact that the Lions winning to the Chiefs. Anyway, so then we have the Panthers versus the Falcons, another 10 a.m. game. 10 a.m. game. Our friend Robbie, he is a really big Panthers fan, so we will be cheering on for the Panthers. Anyway, they do have rookie Bryce Young as their quarterback, who they did trade up to get that first-round pick to get him. They also signed my person, Miles Sanders from the Eagles, who, like I said, if you watch my videos, I had his jersey, truly liked him. I thought he did amazing for us. And they did get this at Adam Thielen from the Vikings. So he is, though, questionable with his ankle. DJ Moore, who had 7 touchdowns last season, is with them now. DJ Moore, who had 7 touchdowns last season, is now on Chicago, along with Deontay Foreman, who had 5 touchdowns, also went to the Bears. And then they had Tommy Tremble, who had 3 touchdowns, who is still with them as a tight end for the Bears. As for the Falcons, you have Cordarrelle Patterson, had 9 touchdowns last season. He looks to be sitting out this week, though, with a soft tissue injury, whereas McCoy Pruitt had 4 touchdowns. He is still there. And Marcus Mariota, 4 touchdowns, is now the new Eagles backup quarterback. If you did watch the show, Quarterback, that was really good to watch everything about all the players. They are now currently have rookie Bijan Robinson for the Falcons, and everybody is looking towards Robinson to do like extremely well. So we'll see. They still have Desmond Ridder as their starting QB. Not really sure. They do also still have Drake London, so that is definitely one of their main players as well. So Barbie is picking the Panthers for the win here. Then you have the Cardinals versus the Commanders. So neither team, I think, is honestly that great. I obviously think that both of them are going to manage to get some wins. I don't really know how much either one. I for sure think that the Cardinals are going to be one of the worst teams in the whole league this year. And the Commanders, I think, are going to be the worst team in the NFC East division. However, as for the Cardinals, they had James Conner with 8 touchdowns. Zach Ertz, who was the Eagles' previous tight end, 4 touchdowns, who is cleared but is still recovering from a knee injury where they may have given him a limited workload for the game. And DeAndre Hopkins, which I think they're fools for letting him go, who had 3 touchdowns. He barely got to play, but he's now on the Tennessee Titans. I think he's going to do wonders for the Tennessee Titans. He has incentives in his contract to, and get those yards and touchdowns and everything like that. They are playing with their backup quarterback, Joshua Dobbs, a not 100% Zach Ertz, and running back James Conner, and wide receiver Rondale Moore and Michael Wilson. So, yeah, Arizona. I don't know what's going on with you guys. You guys Arizona fans? Comment down below. Let me know How many wins do you think your team's going to get this year? Because I would love to know. Then you have the Commanders, whereas they had Johan Dotson, 7 touchdowns. He is playing along with Curtis Samuel, who had 5 touchdowns last season. Like I said, remember, these people are the top 3 people with touchdowns in the team for each team. And Terry McLaurin, who had 5 touchdowns, is playing as well. They do so all the players are main players, but they didn't happen to pick up any serious weapons in the draft. I kind of really feel like they missed out tremendously by not picking up some serious players. So, Barbie is picking the Commanders, even though they're in the NFC East and they're my division. I think they're going to beat the Cardinals. So, Commanders. Then we have the Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Indianapolis Colts. As for the Jags, you had Christian Kirk last season who had 8 touchdowns, along with Zay Jones who had 5 touchdowns, and Travis Etienne. I can never remember how you say his name. Some of these names, I really apologize. I think somebody told me his last name was French. Running back, he had 5 touchdowns as well. You also do have Calvin Ridley, who was suspended all of last year for gambling. I did do a video about gambling, and I did mention him. So, the Jacksonville Jaguars, I don't know. I really don't know. They still do have Trevor Lawrence. And they still have my previous coach, Doug Peterson. So, let's see. As for the Colts, they had Michael Pittman last season who had 4 touchdowns. He is playing. Jonathan Taylor, he had 4 touchdowns. He's not playing right now. He's still trying to hold out. He really wanted to be traded because they don't want to extend his contract. I think he should go to another team. I know he apparently has now an October 31st deadline, so I'm not really sure what's happening. And then you do have Mo Alley Cox, who had 3 touchdowns last season. He is playing. He is their tight end for the Colts. So I don't know. But Barbie's giving this one to the Jags. Barbie is choosing the Jags to win here, and this is still a 10 a.m. game on Sunday. Then you have the 49ers versus the Steelers. So the 49ers did amazing in the 2022 season, only to lose to the Eagles in the playoffs due to Brock Purdy's hurt elbow. See, elbows are a thing. You do have George Kittle with 11 touchdowns last season. He is questionable, though, with a groin injury for the game. You have Christian McCaffrey, 10 touchdowns. Obviously, everybody loves Christian McCaffrey. He is a beast and definitely one of the top running backs. Then you have Brandon Ayuk with 8 touchdowns. So all of their star players they're supposed to be playing. Kittle hopefully will play. Like I said, he is questionable, but hopefully he will play. And they did sign a contract extension with Nick Bosa, who, if you were to choose as a female, probably one of the hottest people in the league as a dude. I've been asked this question before, and I would probably say he is up there on one of the best looking people in the league. Whereas the Steelers had star players like Najee Harris with 10 touchdowns, George Pickens, 5 touchdowns, and Kenny Pickett, 3 touchdowns. So obviously their quarterback was one of their top people. I don't think the Steelers did really well either, picking up some good people that would help them tremendously, not at least for the offense, for weapons. We'll see what happens with them. I unfortunately feel like the Steelers are not, I'm sorry for those who I do know that are Steelers fans, I don't think you're making even the wild card. I just don't think that's going to happen this season. Sorry. So Barbie here is taking, though, the Steelers. I know that sounds crazy, but I have a feeling that they do have a chance to pull it off. I think the 49ers are a good team, but obviously look what happened now with the Chiefs and the Lions. So never count your chickens until they're hatched, as they say. Crazy thing to say, but seriously, don't catch your chickens until they're hatched. Then you have the Titans versus the Saints. The Titans for the 2022 season obviously had Derrick Henry. He had 13 touchdowns. One of the best running backs for sure in the entire league. Dontrell Hilliard, 4 touchdowns, and Nick Westbrook, Akeem playing. All of them are playing, and he had 3 touchdowns. They did manage to pick up star DeAndre Hopkins. So I have a feeling that the Titans are going to give the Jags a run for their money in their division, especially now that they have DeAndre Hopkins as a wide receiver and Derrick Henry as a running back. And even though both of them are older, I do feel like they have still the capability to hit the numbers. Sometimes these players just need the right team or the right fit in order to hit their stride. And I think that both of them are still going strong. So we'll see. Whereas for the Saints for the 2022 season, they had Taysom Hill, who had 9 touchdowns, Jawan Johnson, he's playing, 7 touchdowns, and Alvin Kamara, who had 4 touchdowns, who is due to miss 3 games due to the incident that happened in Las Vegas. It's very odd to me that he was able to play the preseason, but he gets suspended for the regular season. Like, why wouldn't you just suspend him for the preseason, maybe like 1 regular season game? No, with the preseason, obviously, they're trying to say it doesn't really matter at all. I don't understand. And you have rookie Chris Olave. I'm expecting him to do well. He did really well last season, and I think he's going to do really well again this year. They also did obviously sign Derek Carr to a pretty big contract for him. I think he's going to do better than everybody else that has been doing him since obviously Drew Brees. They have not really had a great luck at quarterback. They've had people obviously who've done well, but nobody obviously has stepped into Drew Brees' shoes since he's retired. So, Barbie is choosing the Titans. I think the Titans are going to pull out this win against the Saints. I do think the Saints, if you watch my video, will be the league winner for their division. But the Titans, let's see what happens there. I think the Titans are pulling this one out. Next up, you have the Raiders versus the Broncos. And this is your first 1:25 p.m. game on Sunday the 10th. You do have for the Raiders, Devontae Adams, who had 14 touchdowns last season. That's one of the, for sure, highest amount of touchdowns for any player of all of last season. Josh Jacobs with 12 touchdowns. So it sucks that the Raiders have these good people who've managed to get touchdowns. They just keep striking out and making the playoffs. And then they have Matt Collins with 4 touchdowns. So no one knows what's going on with their player, Chandler Jones. There's apparently just a bunch of issues happening with him and nobody really knows what's going on. And then they did sign Jimmy G. I think he is a little bit better than Derek Carr, but he's had some injury and I know it's part of his contract that he has to pass a physical in order to play. So let's see what happens. Can the Raiders actually make it to the playoffs this season? I would love to see that being in the Vegas team. Do I think it's happening? No, I didn't say it was happening, but I would love to see it happen. And as for the Broncos, you have Jerry Jeudy, who had 6 touchdowns last season, who is questionable, though, for week 1. You have Latavius Murray, who had 5 touchdowns, and Russell Wilson with 3 touchdowns. They did sign Sean Payton in the offseason, and as we all said, that if anybody can help to unlock Russell Wilson's potential, that would be Sean Payton. So we're all really curious to see what happens to Russell Wilson this season and Sean Payton. Is he capable of turning players around? Because he has for sure in the past. Next up, you have my team, the Eagles versus the Patriots. It is an away game. Their first game of the season is an away game. 1:25 game, of course, I'm going to watch on my phone. Did anybody else get the YouTube Sunday ticket? Because we did at my house, and we're really excited for it. But fingers crossed that it works well. I even got it with the red zone situation. We're not getting YouTube TV, though. That's not happening. But we did get the YouTube Sunday ticket. For the Eagles, obviously, you had Jalen Hurts last season at 13 touchdowns. He was our top person. He had all those rushing touchdowns. That's just what our quarterback does. He just rushes for the ball. My previous jersey, Mr. Miles Sanders, our running back, had 11 touchdowns, I think. 11 touchdowns. He's now in the Carolina Panthers. The Eagles just didn't want to pay money. How rude. Howie Roseman, let's go. Stop being so cheap sometimes. And then you had A.J. Brown, which I'm sorry. If it wasn't for A.J. Brown last season, I still believe that we would not have made the Super Bowl. A.J. Brown had 11 touchdowns. He was an animal. Both him and Miles Sanders super stepped up to bat. Gosh, I just freaking loved it. So great being an Eagles fan last season. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that this season is the same. However, we did steal DeAndre Swift from the Lions, who was a beast for them last season. And we picked up rookie Jalen Carter defense, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed, will do very well for us. I mean, besides stupid legal issues. I mean, unfortunately, these people need to stop getting themselves in trouble outside of football. So dumb. Like, that stuff might have flown in the past, but Roger Goodell does not play games anymore. He's like, what's that? Gambling. Your suspension. You shot a person. You're in trouble. Like, no, they don't care anymore. They super just don't play. As for the Patriots, you have Jacoby Myers, who had 6 touchdowns last season. Ramondre Stevenson, 6 touchdowns. And Devontae Parker, he had missed 2 practices last week, but he is back on the field with 3 touchdowns. And then obviously now the Patriots signed Ezekiel Elliott from the Cowboys. So I think it's like a 1-year deal. And I'm really curious to see like how Zeke's going to do, because he used to do extremely well for the Cowboys. You know, I looked it up and that the Chiefs had the number 1 touchdowns for a team last year. Then it was the Eagles, and then it was the Cowboys. So the Cowboys last season were 3rd best in touchdowns. But yet, they get knocked out of the playoffs by the 49ers. What happened 2 seasons in a row. So, sorry. So, oh, did I say for the last game? The last game, Barbie is taking the Broncos versus the Raiders. And for this game, I am taking the Eagles versus the Patriots. So Barbie's taking the Eagles versus the Patriots. I'm sorry, I didn't even see who I was playing last time. Okay, then we have the Rams versus the Seahawks. So this is also a 125 game. You do have the Rams who have Cooper Kupp. He is out for the first game of the season. He had 7 touchdowns last season. You had Cam Akers with 7 touchdowns and Allen Robinson with 3 touchdowns. He was traded to the Steelers. As for the Seahawks, you have Tyler Lockett with 9 touchdowns, Kenneth Walker 9 touchdowns, who is questionable due to a groin injury. These people are getting groin injuries. Guys, are we stretching enough? Like, I feel bad for you guys who are getting these groin injuries. That has to suck. And then you have DK Metcalf, my favorite player on the Steelers for sure, because he's just a beast and an animal. He's super fast. He's tall and fast. Just a beast. And they are all playing. So, let's see what happens between the Seahawks and the Rams. The Rams obviously have not been the same since they won the Super Bowl, but I am going to be taking the Seahawks here. So Barbie is taking the Seahawks here. Okay, then you have the Dolphins versus the Chargers. So the Dolphins obviously have one of my favorite wide receivers in the league. He's one of my favorite because he's very talented. Mr. Tyreek Hill, who had 9 touchdowns last season, along with Waddle, who had 8 touchdowns, and Raheem Mostert, 5 touchdowns. They are all playing. The Dolphins did get Jalen Ramsey, but he is hurt right now, so that does really suck. So I do think that obviously as long as Tua stays healthy, which is always a question because look what happens when Travis Kelce isn't healthy for the first game. The Chiefs end up losing. Clearly, if you lose, as I've said, one of your major players, you have a better chance to actually lose the game. But then you have the Chargers who had Austin Eckler. I had no idea, Chargers fans, that Austin Eckler was the top player in the league last season with touchdowns. 18 touchdowns last season. Jamal Williams was the only person who was right below him with 17 from the Lions last season. I was shocked. Clearly, he must get the ball the entire time because I didn't realize he had 18 touchdowns. That's incredible. So good for you, Chargers. I do think the Chargers will be in the wild card division. Then you have Keenan Allen, 4 touchdowns, and then Gerald Everett, who he is playing as well for 4 touchdowns. So I am definitely going to be taking football. Barbie is taking the Dolphins for this game. I do think the Dolphins have a chance, as I said, to win the AFC East. If you don't agree with me, do watch my AFC East video, and you will understand why I picked the Dolphins over the Bills. As for Jets fans, you guys are all up there, but as for the divisional winner, I do think it's going to the Dolphins. Next up, you have the Packers versus the Bears. So the Packers have Christian Watson. He does look out to be week 1 due to a hamstring issue. He had 9 touchdowns last season. And then you have Aaron Jones, who had 7 touchdowns. He is playing, and he says that the team must come out fast. And then you have A.J. Dillon, who had 7 touchdowns, and he is also playing for the Packers. Then the Bears do have Justin Fields, who was their quarterback, who had 8 touchdowns last season. We all know that he runs a ball like Jalen Hurts here. Then you have Cole Kmet, 7 touchdowns. David Montgomery, who now left their team and went to the Lions with 6 touchdowns. Yeah, I bet they're hurting from that. But they did get DJ Moore, so they've got to be super excited about that because I sure as heck would be. So like I said, they picked up DJ Moore. They did also pick up linebacker Tremaine Edmonds. He also re-signed running back Kahari Blessingame, and they signed running back Travis Homer from the Seahawks. They also signed running back Deontay Foreman from the Panthers. So they got him from the Panthers. They have DJ Moore from the Panthers. Yeah. They did lose David Montgomery to the Lions, but they picked up 2 good players. So I'm curious to see how the Bears are going to do this season. So Barbie is picking the Bears over the Packers for the game. Next up, you have the Cowboys versus Giants. So in my house, we are also a Cowboy. We are also a Giants fan in this house. The Cowboys had obviously Zeke Elliott last season at 12 touchdowns, as I said, now is on the Patriots. Then you have Tony Pollard, who had 12 touchdowns, who is now their main running back, and CeeDee Lamb, 9 touchdowns. So if them 2 are playing, CeeDee Lamb is also really good. I know for a fact I've definitely watched him. He's fantastic. Then you have for the rookie tight end, Luke Shoemaker is activated. Tony Pollard, though, didn't get signed to their franchise tag this past season. As for the Giants, they have Saquon Barkley, still luckily, who had 10 touchdowns and who got his contract extension. Daniel Jones with 7 touchdowns, who did get also a new payday, and Richie James 4 touchdowns, who is now on the Chiefs. So I'm curious to see what happens with the Giants. Football Barbie here is picking the Giants, but at the end of the day, I don't know what's going to happen. I did say that the Giants are going to have one up on the Cowboys for the whole division. So I think the NFC East will dominate the playoffs. Just watch that video. Watch this video and figure out how. Then next stop, we have the Bills versus the Jets on the Monday. I'm sorry, the Giants and the Cowboys game is Sunday night game. So that'll be cool. We have to watch that prime time. And then you have the Bills versus the Jets. They are the Monday night game on September 11th. Of course, you know, the schedule maker would put 2 New York teams on September 11th. It's like an anniversary too or something. Well, what is it? Like 22 years? But of course, it lands on a Monday. Why wouldn't you do that? So the Bills have Stephon Diggs, who had 11 touchdowns last season, Josh Allen, who had 7 touchdowns, and Gabe Davis, 7 touchdowns. All of them are still with the Bills, and they are still playing, but they did lose some really good players during the offseason, including running back Devin Singletary and linebacker Tremaine Edmonds. I do think that the Bills are for sure going to be a beast. Maybe this will be the year they win the Super Bowl. I don't know. I feel like they keep losing their shot. You also do have the Jets had Breece Hall. He seems like he will be playing, but apparently does say questionable. He was taken off the PUP list. He had 5 touchdowns last season. Garrett Wilson had 4 touchdowns, and Tyler Conklin had 3 touchdowns. Now, I am really trying to hopefully go to the Giants and Jets games on October 29th, the weekend right before Halloween. I would love to see this new Jets team play with newly picked up, obviously we know, Aaron Rodgers, who signed a massive deal with the Jets. They desperately wanted him. They also got Dalvin Cook from the Minnesota Vikings and Alan Lazard from the Packers, who obviously did play for Rodgers. He did apparently get hurt, but he is expected to play week 1, Lazard. So I'm really curious to see. Barbie, though, is picking the Bills for this game over the Jets. I'm really, really curious to see kind of what happens with all these teams. How many am I actually going to get right? Because I already know I got one wrong. Thank you, Chiefs, for losing to the Lions. Appreciate that. I thought that one had, obviously, that one in the bag. But this is football, which is why it's my favorite sport. You never know who's going to win or who's going to lose. And as they always say, it's any given Sunday. So thank you guys so much. Please let me know, what do you guys think about the picks that I chose? Please message me and comment me down below. I love you all so much. Ta-ta.